Ken Thomas is at the White House. He's a White House reporter for the Associated Press. Ken, I want to start with the White House's effort to defend its budget deal and the president's tweet calling for a good shutdown. Let's listen to some of what was said Tuesday on Capitol Hill and at the White House following that tweet.
We've got a long ways to go between now and September, but I share the president's frustration.
This bill is a clear win for the American people. We brought lawmakers together from both sides of the aisle to deliver a budget that funds the rebuilding of the United States military, makes historic investments in border security, and provides health care for our minors and school choice for our disadvantaged children. This is what winning looks like.
I think the president is frustrated with the fact that he negotiated in good faith with the Democrats and they went out to try and spike the football and make him look bad. If you wanted to imagine what a good shutdown was, it would be one that fixes this town. So what would the that one that drives the message back home to people that it really was as broken as they thought that it was when they voted for Donald Trump, and they would trust him to, if that's what it's necessary to do to fix Washington, D.C., that would be a good shutdown.
All right, so Ken, what does all that add up to? How is the White House looking to frame this budget deal? And what about that case for a quote-unquote good shutdown?
It adds up to a lot of mixed messages. We had the president tweet this morning that it might be good to have a shutdown in September. That came a few days after he accused Democrats of wanting a shutdown, that would be a bad thing. And then after the president's tweets, we had the administration coming to his defense and making the case that he was the winner here. He was the one who got most of what he wanted. I think there was a sense in the administration that Democrats were gleefully claiming that they had rolled the president and they had gotten the better deal. So there was a real full-court press in the briefing room. You saw Mick Mulvaney there making the case that the president had gotten a real good deal on issues like border security, defense spending, education efforts here in D.C. So there was this real attempt to try to show that the president had gotten the better of Democrats in the negotiations.
Well, let me ask you about health care. How has the struggle to secure votes, again, highlighted the division between the White House's agenda and congressional Republicans?
This is just a tough issue, and this is a week in which the House Republicans are trying to get to 216 votes. They have a recess next week, but they certainly took a bit of a step backwards today. Fred Upton, a Michigan congressman, a moderate, someone who's pretty well respected, said that he couldn't support the bill. So that raises questions on whether they're going to be able to pull together enough of the moderates to get the bill through the House and into the Senate. A lot of Republicans are wary of it. They're concerned that there aren't enough protections for people with pre-existing conditions. And there's also concern that even if they pass the bill out of the House, once it moves to the Senate, it will be completely changed, and that any vote you take now, and if you're a House member, could come back to haunt you several months from now.
So what is your sense right now of where the vote stands?
It's very tight. I think, right now Republicans could afford to lose about 22 votes. Whip counts show that they're pretty close to that spot. The president has tried to say to take your time, to not get too hung up on a timeline. But at the same point, there's, this is sort of the sweet spot right now. This is a week where they're very close to having enough votes where they could possibly get it over the finish line in the House at least. And if they are unable to take a vote this week, the members are going to go home to their districts where they're likely to hear a lot of criticism. So it could be a very crucial week for the health care bill.
Let me ask you about foreign policy. We know the president spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin Tuesday. The White House described the call as a very good one, and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson called it constructive. What was the focus and goal of that conversation?
Well, by all indications, Putin and President Trump were able to speak constructively on Syria, There are indications that the two countries may be able to work together there. They also said that in all likelihood President Trump and President Putin will be meeting for the first time face-to-face in July at the G20 in Germany. This is a much different tone than what we had a few weeks ago after the chemical attack in Syria. There were very tough words from Rex Tillerson at that time, along with Nikki Haley. And so I think we seem to be seeing maybe a turning of the corner as it relates to Syria.
Meantime, FBI Director James Comey is scheduled to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee Wednesday for FBI oversight purposes, not necessarily related to congressional investigations into alleged Russian involvement in the 2016 election. Still, what do you expect Comey will be pressed on?
Well, he's going to continue to be pressed on where things stand on this Russia investigation. It's unclear how much he's going to offer, but he's under a lot of pressure to try to provide more of a sense of where the investigation is going and whether there will be some sort of disclosure at the end of the process in terms of, how this might have affected Hillary Clinton's chances and what steps were taken to try to determine, whether Russia meddled in the election.
Well, also on Wednesday, Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas is visiting Washington for the first visit in 3 years. President Trump continues to promise to broker the ultimate deal between Israelis and Palestinians. What is each leader looking to the other for in that meeting?
I think Abbas is he's still working to try to create a Palestinian state. I think he's looking for assurances from Trump that Trump will try to help maybe create the parameters for some sort of deal. I think Trump wants Abbas's help in trying to make the climate more conducive to having peace talks. It's unclear if this is just an introductory meeting, if it's really just a get to know you, or if it might lead to some sort of meeting with Netanyahu at some point where the two sides could try to talk about their differences. This is an elusive thing. The Obama administration tried to get the two sides together, and they were just unable to do so. And as you said, for Trump, this could be a big deal, a sign of his ability as a negotiator. And it's something that he talked about during the campaign of, having a high interest in trying to bring the two sides together.
All right. Ken Thomas for us. Ken, thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lane.